I just find the funniest sentence to start on and go from there.
I was about to say, what's that? How frequently have you edited us out, Lauren?
I cut a lot of silences in the first couple.
Silence? What, with you and I?
Yeah, because apparently it takes me like 46 seconds to load a fucking thought. So I'd like start a sentence and then I'd be like, and I was like, if I was listening to this, I'd hate me. Because I'd be like, fucking say what you need to say and stop. So I just kept like, the first one that we'd done, when I was editing it, I had to cut so much out where I was just like, you know, I didn't do it with you very much, but with me, constant breaks in my speech. And I was like, am I okay?
Do you know, that's really interesting because my perception of you isn't that. Isn't that interesting for you to go back and look at that? I would have said it was me that possibly had the bigger gaps and pauses because I often like to think about things before I respond. And I then thought, yeah, that must be me. Well, isn't that fascinating?
Welcome
Welcome
to another episode of The Blondes.
Yeah.
You fools for still being here, but we love you, thank you.
Actually, yes, if you are still here,
Yay.
thanks. You're listening to the mad ramblings of two women.
A ChatGPT called us chaotic witches the other day. And I thought,
how bloody rude.
Well, because I told it we cackle. And it was like, join the musings of the chaotic witches. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. Fair enough.
I feel like I have no
Rude.
response.
I know.
Very
How dare
rude.
he? It. Martian.
Are you giving it a personality now?
It's a Martian.
In
it
fact,
wears a turtleneck sweater and drinks coffee from a flask like Rupert the Bear.
that you have gone into that much detail.
I spend a lot of time alone.
To understand. I thought you were probably on chat.
Yeah,
GPT?
with chat I meant.
Oh, okay.
Obviously. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. Longest intro ever. So I would like to bring something up with you today.
Oh, something up.
Actually,
is
yes.
That planet eating
something up. It is touching me. It tickled you at the first one. It's tickling me now. Oh, no. I would like to talk about the fact that I rang you yesterday, and I don't even know what I rang you about. What was it I was talking about?
No, it was me that I rang you because actually you were having a moment of imposter syndrome.
I did. I sent her a text saying, I'm having a proper imposter syndrome. Should probably just go back and get a normal job kind of day. Swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Because I'm very aware now that they don't last. Like, I knew it was whatever was going on in my brain and body was happening. And I was aware of it, and I was like, oh, well, this feels shit. But I also knew that it had passed because that's changed. But I rang you, and I ended up asking you about... Oh, I know what the question was. It was, do you think that men who own their own businesses call their businesses small businesses? That's what I asked. Because I'd basically said to my husband on the weekend, I'd been like, Dave, if you owned a business and you had coaching clients and strategy clients and you were working with corporates, you know, like we are, and you're about to launch a podcast, would you ever call yourself a small business? He was like, no, absolutely not. Just a business, innit? And I was like, okay, what do I run? He was like, a small business. I was like, Anyway, so he ended up agreeing with me, obviously. But I rang you to be like, what do you think about it? And I don't know why I expected, obviously I was in a strange headspace yesterday because it's not what you're like, but I kind of had this image in my head of you being like, absolutely not! It's just men! Blah, blah, blah. And you were just like, oh, that's really making me think. And I was infuriated.
You were infuriated.
I called her out. I was like, well, that was shit. I was like, I wanted you to react.
Sorry for all of my nervous system training. Which means I reflect first.
Sometimes I really do sit and do these and hope that people are watching on YouTube so they can see the faces we pull.
Yeah, well, maybe they should.
Or maybe it's more fun if they can imagine them. But yes, so how dare you not just rise to the occasion and bitch with me?
I'm not sure that I could really sense your frustration and I think surprise. Because
it was funny in fairness.
Yeah,
it
was funny after because it was just... The reason we're talking about this is because I came in today and I said to Lauren, we were talking about the fact that actually I said to you, I just found it really funny that you'd gone, well, that didn't get the rise that I wanted. And I was like, oh yeah, it never. Soz. And I think it didn't because you made me think what you said.
Yeah. I didn't want slow thoughts.
Yeah, you didn't want slow thought.
I didn't want consideration. I wanted unadulterated, stand up with me and bitch.
Did you tell me that's what you needed?
Oh, don't expect me to be that clever.
So because you didn't say that's what you needed from me, ma'am, I'm going to tell you this, and what I need is just react to it.
I remember you saying that to me when we were younger, because I used to bitch about people and you'd always be really nice. And then I remember you being like, look, if you don't want me to be balanced, you've got to say to me beforehand, I'm about to talk about this person and I just need you to be a bitch.
Be a bitch with me.
Yeah, and then I'd say that and then you'd join in and it would be the best. And then you'd be like, just so you know, afterwards you'd be like, from their perspective. And I'd be like, Jackie! Don't tell me about their perspective. I don't want to hear it.
It's really interesting.
A balanced mother. What a problem.
Well, I'm not sure that was a balanced mother. No, that's not.
Balancing?
That's not the word that I'd use to describe myself. I'd say it was an adjective.
Adjective?
Is it an adjective?
An adjective.
That's an adjective. All right. All right, teacher Lauren. I did not come on this podcast to claim that one, my grammar was good, and two, that I'd get the words right. All right. So balanced mother, no. Not balanced. Do you know what though? If we're going to talk about that bit, it is the counselling that changed that massively for me.
Yeah.
It is that.
And it massively helped as well, though, because then when I was bringing these people I was trying to bitch about home the week after, because obviously my fallouts hadn't happened. Do you know what I mean? Because I remember that's what you were like. You were like, don't ask me to bitch about these people and then bring them home next week and be best friends with them again, because I'll be mad at them still because you were mad at them. So then you were like, right, you need to tell me specifically what you want. Because then I'd bring them home and you'd be like, well, she's a cow.
You realise there's lots of people in the past now. I wonder who's listened to this that knew us, who's going,
yes, I am talking about you.
Do you know, it is that though. And actually, it's back before the counselling. I always remember your nana saying to me, not to fall out with, or kind of, not to fall out with over the parents, over the children that were fighting type of thing. And then it's because like, I'm mumbling, can you hear? I'm stumbling words. It's because I could see a lot of images in my head. So I've got this image of myself playing with this neighbour. So she was a young little girl like me. We were playing. We must have fell out. And it would have been really easy for our mums to fight because we were being really mean to each other, it sounds like. And they did slightly fall out. And then Nana shared with me the fact that she remembers her and this neighbour not saying quite so nice words to each other, then turning around and me and this young girl were playing again friendly. And it was like, and that I guess that stuck in my head. And then it was yes, funny. I also know that I must have done your head in. I did say that to you at one point. I realised that what you just needed was to blow off steam. You wanted somebody that was kind of like...
Yeah, I didn't need calming.
Yeah, you didn't need calming. What you needed was just the opportunity to go.
Yeah, she's a dick.
And it was that. You just needed the validation of feeling... Because you were really angry and frustrated and fed up at times. And I guess... I was trying to bring this calming influence, which was fascinating. So yes, coming back to I'm going to come back to the question that you asked about how would I describe a business. And the reason it got me thinking was, I was thinking, yes, I have said that we're a small business. Mm-hmm. I would probably have introduced us as a small business because there's the two of us. So, and in fact, I think I said that to you because when you said it to me, I did say, oh, well, that's how we would be classed because of the number of employees.
Yeah, I think we're a small to medium enterprise, aren't we? Because we've got more than one person or something.
And yet, there's something really fascinating about that concept of being small. And what it did, so just so you know, and I didn't know you were going to want to talk about this today, so you know that I did go off our call. We were on Messenger, FaceTiming each other. I came off the call and I sat and thought about it because I was like, in what way though is that having an impact on...
Yeah, are we playing small?
Are we playing small?
Like, am I questioning myself because I'm like, oh, well, I'm just a small business. I did it there without even thinking, I'm just a small business owner. What the fuck does that mean?
Even that though, you added the word just.
Just, yeah. I'm not just anything. I am a business owner. Like, me and my mum are business owners and we own a successful business. And we're 3 years in and we're learning and growing and making mistakes. And I'm loving it.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm joking.
How very
I'm
dare you.
I'm joking. Yeah.
It was one of those thoughts that I'd had. And I remember I hadn't got irate about it with Dave because I was just, I don't know if I was in a luteal phase or whatever yesterday. But whatever was going on in my brain yesterday, it was the gluten, actually. I got glutened on Monday. The gluten yesterday had my brain just like, rah, everything is the worst. And I hate everybody. So, yeah, I was fuming at you.
I said, all right, okay, fair.
I only lasted like 36 seconds when we were on the call, but it was, 36 seconds of fume. But actually, I think that comes to a really lovely point because we had a chat about what we wanted to talk about before this. Because that was just ad hoc. Threw that at us right at the start, didn't we? Whoops. And what we wanted to talk about today was actually, the question is, what do you wish more people knew about? And we kind of, prepped about it. And then I'd like to just hand over because I want you to tell me, you haven't told me this yet. I know that it's about a reel, but I don't know any of the sort of background about what you're telling me. So this is live reactions from Lauren. And I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah, because you asked that question. What do you wish people knew more about? And I guess, is it what I wish people knew more about? Right, I saw a reel this morning. So, as you do, I had gone on, there was a couple of notifications, so I went on to check on Instagram. And up pops this reel. And just to give a little bit of context, I was told I had endometriosis in my 30s. I really had struggled with my periods literally from being 12 when they started. They were horrific. I used to be sent home from school. The pain was horrendous. I know that this is a family thing because I know you too and other people in our family have struggled with that. And I was fortunate enough that your dad had private healthcare at the time.
Yeah, a bit of booper.
Yeah, because I was given the option to have a hysterectomy. Funny enough, just to tell you something, I've been calling it a partial hysterectomy because my womb was taken but not my ovaries. And a very great doctor that I spoke to just recently said to me, no, Jacqueline, you've had a full hysterectomy. That was a hysterectomy. Anyway, that's interesting. So for me, it's not even, I only had a part.
We just don't know.
It is this, we don't know. And I think we don't know, and we're learning more. This is what I wish people knew more of, is that I actually think a lot of people don't know a lot of this stuff, and I think we have conversations with people and they're not aware of these things. And anyway, that's what this reel did for me this morning. So you know that I've been sending you reels when I see things about endometriosis, and there are certain...
Yeah, because I've just recently been diagnosed with that, just to give the listeners a bit of context.
Exactly. So and one of the biggest things that I'd learned is that endometriosis, having my womb taken out, wasn't going to stop that. I may cry in this because it's so emotive to me, this, because as a woman, I genuinely believe that we struggle with pain and we invalidate ourselves, as well as being silenced. And I if I go bigger picture with this, which I'm going to, because this is not a rant. I'm not here to call people out or do anything like that. I think the science today is so very different to what it was 20 years ago. And what really got to me today was that here is this really lovely doctor who tells everyone that's watching her reel that there is a link between endometriosis and autoimmune disease.
Fuck off.
Nope. And so she's talking about MS, she's talking about fibromyalgia, she's talking about celiac disease. She's.
If you're not aware at this point, both me and Mum have celiac disease.
So there's this whole connection, and it is now actual data.
Wow.
Right? Science. Now, this is just, they're just knowing this. But what really, really threw me was what she went on to talk about, and I'm so sorry, I cannot remember her name, and Lauren, I will get it, and then I'd like us to put it in the notes. Yeah. So people can go and see the video if you want to see it. But what she was talking about was the fact that for years, she just said women were right. That hit me hard.
Oh, why does that make me want to cry?
All of these women who've had this horrendous pain, and it's not just endometriosis, is it? It's like
PCOS and adenomyosis and all those different ones.
All of these things, and women, we invalidate our pain, or we try it, we push through, and we try to get heard, and for me, it's that this whole bit about where the world has silenced us, and I think some of that is lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So here she is now saying there's this real link that they now want to create all of these, I don't know what, but this process, she called it a particular thing, a whole process where somebody is monitored, not just from that point of being diagnosed with endometriosis, but all the way through. She's talking about the fact that this pain can happen at any point, and can be excruciating. Well, I'm 23 years after having a hysterectomy, only recently learned that the hysterectomy wasn't the thing that was going to cure it, and have thought I was going mad at times because I've been in pain. And I am the woman who has been in hospital or gone to the doctors, gone then to be checked at the hospital, and, had the camera in places that you don't want cameras, where they discover that I've got inflammation in my bowel. They're then asking me while I'm laid there about celiac disease in the family, all of this stuff at that time, to then be shut down by a doctor who told me it was just stress, that there was nothing wrong with me, and that I just needed to go and handle my stress a little bit better. And, it's that, so isn't it? Angry. It's like, and also as a mum, I find it really hard sometimes to watch, and this is not to give you this, I hold this myself. I find it really hard to watch the battle that my daughters have with the challenges that they've got.
Yeah.
And, to 100% make sure that they know I'm listening to the pain that they're in, and that I in no way invalidate it.
Yeah.
And that I absolutely want them to know that I'll do anything that I can to help them, whilst also though giving them the autonomy to do that for yourself and make your own decisions. I cried watching it, because I think for me it was all of that. It's all of this emotion that I've stored up, all those times I've swallowed down the pain, all the times that I've swallowed down the words or the anger when somebody has ignored it.
Yeah.
And I was, God love you, Dad, I was so kind of emotional about it this morning, that I asked him to watch it and watch it all.
Good.
And I think that's the thing. Do I think that he fully understands? No. For me,
no, but every time they hear it, exactly, they learn more.
It's that, isn't it? And I guess, even thinking about the people that are listening to this, how many times have you invalidated your own pain, or, silenced yourself, and because of that,
or experienced medical gaslighting,
exactly.
Or I'm literally, you're talking, and I'm obviously thinking about myself, and I'm thinking about people in our family who are struggling with this right now. And I'm thinking about my friend who has to take days off because it's so horrendous. And then, we go to the doctors and we get all of these tests and things, and they do the same thing over and over again and go, well, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And then you feel crazy. Or I said to my husband the other day, I think I just have a really low pain threshold. I think I'm just pathetic. I was like, I must just be, because if there's nothing wrong and this is the pain I'm feeling, I must be insane. Like, it must be, ridiculous. And then we played a game, and I do not have a low pain threshold compared to my husband. The way he reacts to a cold could tell you that. But
love you,
but yeah. But listening, it's funny, because listening to you has made me think of, oh my gosh, there's so many little images flashed up in my head when you were talking. One was the first time I remember being shut down by a female teacher. It was one of the first times that I had a period, and I think I was 12 or 13, same as you, and they were horrendous. Like, literally from the fucking day dot. And that just feels like a slap, doesn't it? Because you're not even, like, fully formed yet, and you're already dealing with that. And I went to the teacher, and I asked to go to the toilet, and she let me go to the toilet, and I was in so much pain. Like, and for the first time ever, I saw somebody online say it, because I just wanted to sit on the toilet and stay there. until it was done. Like, I'd have stayed on the toilet for 7 days, like I would have done, because it was just such a horrible experience. So I was a little bit longer in the toilet than I should have been, and I got back and she was really mad at me. And like, I quietly tried to talk to her about the fact that I was struggling with my period at the front of the room. And this woman in front of everyone in the class was like, "It's just a period, Lauren. Everybody gets one, go and sit down." So everybody in the room then knew I was on my period. Everybody knew I was struggling with it, and everyone knew I was pathetic because I couldn't handle the pain like everyone else could. Or at least that's what it felt like in the moment. And like, I can't imagine having spoken to anybody like that. Like, even before knowing the stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because just because you deal with, like, you know, people who, there are quite a lot of people, I think, who think period pain is just like this thing that people should get over. But we all experience it so differently. And for some people, like, you know, God's favourites, they get a little bit of cramp and, you know, a few days of bleeding, and it's a happy, jappy little time. And then for the rest of us, there was once when I was bleeding for 6 months. I literally didn't stop bleeding for 6 months when I was like 15, 16. And I remember we were going in and out and I was trying pills and they were just making things worse. Yeah. And like, it was awful. And I just, so that's what it made me think of. And then the second one was a reel I saw the other day from a guy who was talking about the uterus. And he was like, this is the picture of the uterus that you see.
I saw that.
And this is what the uterus really looks like. He's like, and then he was talking about like loads of different things. And he was like, make sure that you send this to the men that you know. And my comment was, send this to the women. I'm a trained science teacher. Like, I've taught biology, chemistry, and physics up to GCSE level. I didn't know that. Like, what do you mean? Like, as a science teacher who teaches sexual reproduction, I didn't know what the uterus really looked like. I only knew what I'd seen in diagrams when I was a kid and that still exist in textbooks now. And that is wild. And we're questioning ourselves and believing that we're hypochondriacs and all of this kind of thing. And actually the world just doesn't know enough. So it's like, don't give up. Like, how many times have I been back over and over and over and over again to be seen about period pains and, you know, and then since pregnancy, Jesus. And finally being listened to, what feels like, but then interestingly being refused a hysterectomy. But anyway, that's a different podcast. But the point being that, I'm not surprised you got emotional. Everything that you've been through, seeing us go through, and knowing how many of the people we work with struggle with their health and not being listened to and feeling like they're being shunned to one side. And that sentence you said earlier, just go away and deal with your stress better. As though that's something really simple people can do. Like, everything about your work is the fact that stress is not simple. Like, we're supposed to have some stress, but we can't just expect people to fix their stress. What do you mean?
One is why does that matter? And two, how do you do it?
Yeah, like what do you
and now I know because actually that's been the mission that I've been on. And I know we've talked about it in, you know, for me it was the turning point. I read the book When the Body Says No by Gabor Maté, and my life has changed from that point. Like, when I read that book and I realised the patterns that I'd watched your nana go through, I also know a lot of the stuff now that she experienced that then had an impact on me, and maybe that's another podcast and a whole other story. The thing is, though, that's the point at which I began to realise I needed to understand more about me. And that for me, though, there's so much research and study that's out there. It doesn't mean everything's right, and I do know that. The thing with the picture, though, the image, that it actually, I'm gobsmacked that our ovaries and our womb are in a completely different position to what has been the thing that's been taught for years in schools.
And how big they get.
Yeah, exactly.
Like how small it is on a normal thing. And then no wonder my trousers don't fit for 2 weeks.
No wonder we're bloated.
Jeez.
And then
you've got influencers trying to tell you that if you blow at any time of the month, there's a problem with you and you need a detox. And it's like, wow, not only are we not being supported, but it also feels like people are capitalising on our vulnerability.
It's interesting as well, because just to add to that, there is, do you know what, it's driving me mad now. I don't know whether this is brain fog or, you know, the menopause. I cannot remember the name of the book that I've just been reading that is talking about the fact that, you know, it was men that drew pictures.
Not the Deb Dana one.
No. I'm reading lots of different books.
She reads lots of books. One day we'll send you a picture on Instagram of her office.
I like
She
books.
got a lot of books.
I like reading, but actually, I do know what it is. It's called All in Her Head. I've just remembered. We'll get an image on the show notes. We'll also get you the name of the author, because I can't remember her name. Oh, it's not good, is it?
Maybe we need
actually
notes.
It's not. It's her book that is the thing, though. So it's that book. It's All in Her Head, and she is really talking about different parts of women. She talks about skin. She talks about bones. She talks about muscles. She talks about, have you heard of resting bike face?
No, but it sounds fun.
The fact that over a century ago, when women first were given the opportunity to ride on bikes, actually they were told that it wasn't good for them because they would get resting bike face.
Oh my gosh, did you know that we were told that we shouldn't ride on steam trains?
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, someone will have to check this, and I'll check this when we come off, and I'll apologise, I suppose, if I get it wrong. But I'm pretty sure that there was when the steam train was first invented, and they made it pretty fast. It was like 50 miles an hour or something. That it was going pretty steady, and they were like, "Oh no, women can't ride this because their uteruses might fall out." They were like, "Yeah, no, women are too fragile. Everything will fall out."
Too fragile is a big thing that's been talked about in this book as well. And it's, it's funny because actually there were already, though, opposing. Interestingly, again, it was men. Men were at the forefront of science. Men were at the forefront of, these discoveries. And yeah,
thank the Lord for Pedro Pascal.
Even Pedro Pascal.
Daddy.
Should we just take a Should we just take
a minute for Pedro Pascal?
I wouldn't be calling him Daddy.
Well, I would, but not in that way, Mum.
I've missed that one. I'm obviously too old.
I meant like, Daddy.
I know. Stop. For those who can't see this, my face went, ew. I don't know what that means even. Actually, though, just to come back to the book, it is one of the things that struck me. I think I spoke to you about the book when I first read it. I only read the first chapter, and then there was stuff that happened, and then I've come back to it. And one of the stories that really struck me in there, because linking to what we've been talking about, how, because of the way that the cultures that we live in and the society that we live in, we almost apologise for being. We make ourselves small, we invalidate ourselves. There was a story that this incredible lady's talking about that wrote the book. I'm pretty certain she's an oncologist, and how she has gone in to see a patient who is at the end of her journey with cancer. And she is chatting to her, they're just having a little bit of a conversation together. And she goes in to give her a hug, and the first thing that the lady in the bed does is apologise for sweating on her.
Oh my God.
And it just broke my heart. It's like,
right at the end of everything, and that's what you're worried about.
And we're worried about what we do to other people. We're worried about
making other people uncomfortable.
And it really, shocked me. And just there was another tiny little story just to share again with that, where this doctor had a patient come in who'd had a mastectomy, and she had covered the scar with I don't know if it was some kind of plaster. And when the doctor said, and it looked uncomfortable, and when the doctor said, what's wrong? What made you put that on? And she was like, I just thought it'd be horrible for you to look at.
Oh,
so again, she was more worried about the discomfort of the oncologist than she was about her own pain. Oh, it's like, honestly, and it's that, isn't it? It's like, I think today, I and I know Lauren, you would as well. I just would love you to share. Where have you been invalidated? Where
let us validate you.
Yeah, where maybe have you silenced yourself? Because we learn to do that through protection. And also I think because we just don't get listened to.
Yes.
And
just want to be heard.
Yeah, just want to be heard. That's how I felt this morning when I saw this video. Yeah. I felt like I'd been heard, and all that pain. And it's funny because what went through my head, and what I've said this to your dad a couple of times, and it's interesting. I know I'm not an idiot. And yet the first thing that I thought when I saw that was, see, I knew I wasn't an idiot, because actually maybe I have been thinking that I was an idiot. I know I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
How many of us go around thinking we're stupid because maybe somebody doesn't, say, oh, yeah, absolutely, you must be in pain, because we get, like you say, tests come back and they're normal. I even saw this as a lady that I follow, that big, lots of menopause conversation happening at the moment online. And she said the same thing. Everything came back normal, yet she knew something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And it's that we lose the trust in ourselves.
I want to share a little tip that I have, actually, because I went to the doctors again for the periods again, and I had put it off for months and months and months because I'd done it so many fucking times. And you'll know this from our family chat, like I didn't want to go back in. I didn't want to be told I was fat. Well, the reason you're in pain is because you're fat, because that's what they always go to. I didn't want to be told that I was, it's just normal. It's just, it's just anxiety, all of those things. And I was like, do you know what? No, I'm not going to do this time. So I prepared. And I had in the notes on my phone, I've still got it because I shared it with the family member who's recently been in as well. And I said, this is what I took, and I recommend you take something similar.
Yeah.
And I wrote down everything I'd done so far, everything I'd tried. I wrote down every pill that I tried, all of the, the options that I'd been through, the injections, all of that kind of stuff. And I wrote down how I'd responded to each one of them and why I wasn't trying them again. I then wrote down my symptoms, like a full overview of my symptoms, so that I didn't forget any, because I get drive-through brain. So drive-through brain for me is when you go through a drive-through and then you panic and you don't order everything you're going to order. I get that in the doctors because I know they've got a very short amount of time. So I needed to be succinct and I needed to say it. So I had this list. And I also had written down two other things. One was what I'd like them to do. So I had written down, I would like you to consider that I have a hysterectomy. And if I'm not able to have a hysterectomy yet, I'd like a full plan of what we're going to do until I get to that point that you agree with that. So I had that written down. And then I had written down my favourite sentence, which was something along the lines of, if you decide that we're not going to move forwards with any treatment, I would like you to specifically write in my notes that you have recommended I don't have any treatment, why you believe that to be true, and that I do not agree with that. Because they're my medical records. I want it in my medical records that you are not listening to me, so that in the future, when this comes back and it is something, I know who to come back to and go, that doctor.
Yeah.
It was that doctor. Because I've had this before, where a doctor wouldn't give me something because they just told me I was overweight. And I was like, I'd like you to write in my notes that you're not going to give me that because I'm overweight. And they were like, oh, well, maybe we can just try it for a week. And then they gave me it because they didn't want to write in the notes what I'd asked them to write in the notes. So that, so having those things, and it was great actually, because the guy that I spoke to, terrified because it was a man, and that's always a bit of a worry, but he really listened. As soon as I said all the things I said, he was like, this is what I think it is. We did a couple of tests and he was like, yep, we've got a plan. This is why we're moving forwards. This is when you're going to come back in. And there was that. But it was, I had this and I sobbed the whole way through reading it. Like I had this plan to not get emotional so that I could be quick and succinct. And I just didn't. Like I was like, when I was reading it, but I did it. I did it. I said what I need to say and he listened because I was like, do you know what? No. I am advocating for myself. And like, that's it, isn't it? Because that's what, bringing this back to the Know Your Matter thing, in these situations, we start to believe that other people's thoughts about us are more correct than our own.
Oh, yeah.
That they understand more about our experiences. And to a certain point, sometimes doctors will, like, obviously, because they're medically trained and I'm not. But they do not understand me, my pain, my experience, and the impact it is having on me on a daily basis. And that's the thing that I started to say to this guy was like, it's not just that it's pain, because pain is, what's the word for that? Subjective, like depending on who's experiencing it. But for me, this pain meant that on the first and second day of my period, I would vomit. I would also be lightheaded and I'd want to do that. By the end of the period, I'd have do you know what I mean? And I went through not just what the symptoms were, but I went through the impact. Yeah. And it was that.
That's a biggie.
So my advice to you is to go in with that list. If you're the kind of person who's still sat there thinking, like, no one's listening to me, like we see you because we've been there. And that's what I recommend. And yeah, just don't drop it.
No.
You're worth so much more than letting it go because it's uncomfortable.
I think it's that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pick your discomfort.
Yeah, choose your hard. Yeah.
Because you either
you either let them make you feel small and continue to be in pain, or you make yourself uncomfortable by standing up for yourself.
Yeah, because just on that note, Lauren, just to say, I think that's brilliant, and I know that that's what you've done. And I know we've done that previously for other people within our family, where we've done that, and made sure that we've sat
advocated
and looked,
for people.
Advocated. And I think that the question is even to consider, in what way is this impacting my daily life? Because once you start to have that, and then you track what's actually happening for you, and I think
I tracked everything. For
and
months.
I think what you're doing that at a time when you're far more calm, or maybe in a place of like, oh, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
Having all of that before you even walk in.
Yeah.
Didn't matter then that you cried, because actually that just added to the fact that this mattered.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point. And I just had the anchor to like hold me through.
Exactly. What a great way to describe that, as an anchor.
Yeah.
Because actually what you'd said, I noticed earlier in that, was that previously going in, it's the panic that sets in. Now, we know that you have had a panic before over authority.
Yep.
So it's the fact that it's also a male doctor walking in, so there's the nervousness. So when you think about how that
that I'm not as clever.
Yeah, I'm not as clever. There you go.
Like, I'm not.
So the
I'm
work
not
that we've done on that, actually, that's that bit, isn't it, where you understand.
Yeah.
So you'd got to a point where you knew what was going to happen, so you preempted. What would happen.
Prepped for it.
And you prepped for it.
Yeah, to manage through it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not about, nothing in the work that we do is about hiding from what comes up and what it feels like. And it's about learning to experience it and choose how you react to it, or learning to experience it and move through it anyway.
Yeah. Well, you're building your tolerance for discomfort.
Yeah.
And that's uncomfortable when you sat there, and you can feel that your head's going, he knows better than you, or she knows better than you.
Shut up, you're just a whinge bag.
Shut up, you're just a whinge bag. Exactly. This internal dialogue that we have with ourselves.
Oh.
And actually, that's the part, isn't it? Being able to
so
see
important.
it. That's a lot of what I think I do.
Do you know what I'd love?
Sorry
to interrupt you. I'd love, if any doctors are listening, I would love to ask them how this impacts them, because it must be so hard to be on the other side and not have the knowledge. They've not got the research, they don't have the time, they don't have anything. And I'm just like, this must be so hard. So I'd love to hear from them. What's it like?
And what must that feel like to have somebody maybe that sits in front of them that is panicking, that can't give them the information, versus having somebody that comes in with all of that information? Because you're right, the greatest of respect to doctors and medical professions and everything that they do. None of this, please, I want to say again, none of this is about blame. It's just about talking about.
It's not around about people. It's just around about our experiences.
It's about experiences, and it's about understanding, isn't it, that often we don't feel listened to. That often the world silences us.
Yeah.
And then we go on to silence ourselves to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel safe often to do that.
And if you're someone who's been experiencing it, hopefully listening to this makes you go, all right, okay, I'm not the only one. Because even that in itself, it doesn't diminish what you're going through. No. It's not to say that, oh, well, everyone else is dealing with it too. It's not that. I'm not alone.
Common humanity.
It's a common humanity. And if you listen to one of our previous episodes, you'll know what that means.
Self-compassion, mindfulness, understand what you're feeling, see it, feel it.
Common humanity. Yeah, I'm not the alone. Everyone else would feel like this if they were me.
Kindness to the action. What do I need? Yeah.
What do I need?
Kindness for self. And a bit of mama bear energy.
For yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, find yourself a bestie who does, because we'll do it for you.
Yeah.
We've got that for everyone, don't we?
We do. Right. We have enough to share.
What a good conversation. Well, I hope that's felt a little bit like helpful for people who are struggling with it. Yeah. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Take care. Get in touch. Yeah. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. Any topics or anything. Any
questions.
Yeah, any questions, anything on, what we've just been discussing. And just thanks for listening.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.
Bye.